welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So today I am joined by Sheriece Perry. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am an attorney.
Okay.
I am a Black woman.
Yes.
I am a mom. I'm a social justice warrior, as I often call myself. I work for the Massachusetts Trial Court, and I do a lot of work around what we call self-represented litigants, which are basically, individuals coming into the court system that don't have counsel, and we help them navigate themselves through the court system, how to file paperwork, what to do, etc. I'm also in the real estate space as a broker, tons of attorneys that are in that space as well, and an investor. And then I am low-key in the cannabis space as well, and been in that space since 2018.
All right. So that's a lot of hats. So multifaceted to its core. So talk to me about what balance looks like for you. So wearing all of those different hats and being in all of those different spaces, what does that look like for you?
What it looked like before, and I always try to talk about, like, at one point in my life, I had no idea what balance looked like because, you try to do so much. When I became an attorney, everyone would reach out and ask questions and things like that. And you constantly feel like people are always, I need a question. And then I had my daughter, and it was like, what does life look like being a mom now and working for the court system, which is already hectic. And then my love of real estate, my love of community, and being in spaces to support people in that. So for a long time, it was very overwhelming. And I kind of felt like I wasn't really sure what balance looked like. I just ran an automatic pilot, I think. And I would probably say once life started to, happen and I started checking things off the box, I realized kind of who I was. Like, I felt like I was able to identify myself. It's organization, quite frankly. It's creating boundaries around things that people want. So
this is a big thing.
The value of boundaries is so real. And I think the pandemic for me was forced boundaries, right? Because now I don't have to go to all these events that people are asking. People can't come to me. They can't come to my house. They can't do anything. And so once I started to realize that, it was like, you know what? I think I need to do a little bit more of access denied. I think I need to kind of hone in on the things that make me happy. Making sure my daughter's good. What do I want to set up for her as she thinks about, like, high school and college? What do I want to buy? What do I want to do? I want to travel.
Absolutely.
I spent so much time just being in Boston and doing things for an entire community. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get on a plane all the time whenever I feel like it. And if I'm not available for things, I was okay saying no.
That's very important. I think boundaries are important. I think what you talked about with the pandemic is absolutely very real. I've talked about that in past situations where I feel like it was a opportunity to kind of burn away, like pull away the things that were fluff, the things that were extra. So if you think about, like, when metal goes through fire, like the impurities, all the extra stuff gets burned away, and then the things of value is what's left. So I think the pandemic was really that. All of the kind of the noise and the extra motion, like driving to and from the office, got burned away, and you really saw what was valuable, what was important. And you were forced to prioritize. It was forced prioritization a lot of the times. So that, I think, instilling boundaries and kind of holding firm to that is very important. So when you think about your daughter, setting an example for her, what are some important things that you hold on to as you think about being that for her, being an example for her?
For my daughter, for friends that have daughters, my biggest thing is education. I instill that from, it's not always the A's and B's, right? Because we try to quantify what academics mean, right? It's really like a love of education, a love of learning, a love of, right, doing the things that you are passionate about, and feeling like, every day I'm going to try my best to do my best. And then if I have hurdles and different things that I need to get over, then you kind of put your effort towards that. You don't give up. You keep going. You push forward. A lot of resiliency, a lot of honesty, and just a lot of, like, allowing her to be herself, and allowing her to really have a voice in what she wants to do. And I'm big on trying to break generational curses, right? And our generation of parents really had a perspective on life and success and what you do. My thing is, there's no limit to what you can do, right? It fits a male-dominated field, and that's what you want to do. go on and do that, but always be thinking about what is it that you want to do with life, exposing her to things that are different, not just kind of, you're just going to go to school and come home, right? No, it's like, we're going to go to school. We're going to do all types of different activities, events. I'm always looking for different things, like based on what she wants to do. So that's really a lot of that. I think she sees a hard worker in me. Spending time with her is really, really important. So she sees the balance of like, we're going to work, we're going to work hard for the things that we want. We're going to focus and hone in on the things that are important and whatever those successes are. But we're also going to take time to do family stuff. I'm big on family. I'm big on seeing family and traveling. So, in addition to myself traveling, I always wanted to continue to expose her to new things. So she's just like, oh my God, this is something new. This is something new. So,
Absolutely.
So that's a lot of what I try to do.
No, I think that that's important. I think that one of the things you touched on is her seeing a hard worker in you. And I think that that is tremendously important. So my mother was definitely a very similar example for me. She was a very hard worker, lots of different things. She wore lots of different hats. So that's very real. She will kind of pick up on that. She will see that in you. In a lot of ways, she'll probably end up emulating it and becoming a better version of you, because I feel like that's really what we want. We want our kids to kind of have the opportunities that we didn't have, learn the things that we didn't learn. So I'm sure that she will see that and she will take that and run with it.
That is my hope.
That's all we can do. All we can do is hope.
My goal is to create spaces and give my daughter more than I had, so that she doesn't have to, when we go to school, we have student loans. We know the impact of student loans on our life and our ability to buy property and our ability to do so many different things. And I'm like, no, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to make sure she doesn't have to worry about student loans, because I knew that that was a barrier for me to be able to have more financial freedom. So those are the things that I think about. Like, if I drop dead tomorrow, is she good? Is she okay? Could she continue? Is my family going to be able to take care of her? So every day I really just focus on that, but not working so hard that you don't understand your worth, right? Because you can work yourself to death, and really, when you're gone from that space, nobody loses any sleep.
It's very
over
real.
it.
It's very real.
So, creating that balance, I think, is important.
I think that balance is tremendously important. So again, like I said, kind of being a better version of what was modeled for us. My parents worked very hard, but they weren't huge on self-care. So I think this generation, if there's a generational curse to be broken with this generation, it's absolutely self-care. I teach my son self-care. We vacation frequently. Like, we take time just to take time. Like, you can take a mental health day. That's okay. Because I think that that's very important. So that balance, I think, there's a lot of value there. I think that rest is absolutely a productive activity. You might not feel like you're producing, but you can't produce if you don't rest. So I think that that's important, having that. So when you think about, you kind of said that you're a social justice warrior. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Social justice warrior is, it's racial justice, right? It's access to justice. And, in the court system, when people think about lawyers, oftentimes we think about, what do you see on the TV, right? It's like the prosecutor, it's the criminal defense lawyer, it's the real estate person, it's the contracts, it's the personal injury, right? I occupy a unique space that we call really legal services and legal aid. And my whole passion is to help the most vulnerable populations get access to our court system. Our court forms don't make any sense. Lots of legalese, people that are limited English proficient, don't speak English as a first language, literacy issues, that is my population of people. And so I'm in a court system that's predominantly white. The people that work there are predominantly white. And, it's built on systemic institutional racism, period. And so what I'm advocating for are people that oftentimes are forgotten and nobody even cared about. So that's one space. And then second, it's really Black women attorneys particularly represent 2% of lawyers in general. And Black lawyers is a smaller percentage, So when you think about my profession, we are hugely unrepresented. And so I constantly, as an attorney, walk into white spaces. There are macroaggressions, microaggressions, there are retention issues of Black lawyers. So when I think about social justice, it's about, what am I doing to not only get myself into these spaces, but also to be able to create spaces for other lawyers to want young people to become lawyers. I had these folks, right, when I was growing up, and that's it, particularly here in the city of Boston. And so my thing was, how do I become what I wish I had?
Absolutely.
I want young Black folks, young people, to see a physical manifestation of what it is. I want them to think about being lawyers and know that you can be successful in it, and know that you can do this. And so the only way to actually create that is to be physically present, talk about it. I just did a DEI panel the other day, I think Thursday evening. I published a law review article on being a Black woman attorney and what that looked like. And so my thing is to raise awareness, and then to constantly just be the Black woman, Anita Hill's person in the room, and just, you have to say the things that people don't want to hear.
Absolutely.
And you have to sometimes be a voice when people don't feel like they can actually stand up for themselves.
That's very real.
And encourage other lawyers to say, do something. And it's not just us. This is white folks. I need white lawyers to be like, no, that Black lawyer in the conference room said something real, and I support what she said. And so that they feel heard too.
So that is very real. I think that it touches on, that's one of the reasons I reached out. So that was one of many of the reasons I reached out. But that representation, the idea that seeing somebody that looks like you doing the things that you aspire to do, and the ability, the fact that that really can change the trajectory of a young person's life, kind of seeing that there's somebody that looks like me that's doing that, somebody that looks like me that's a lawyer, that's absolutely a profession that I can go after. That's something that I can achieve. So I think that that's very real. And I think the impact of the work that you're doing is very real. So when we crossed paths back in 2015, I came into the legal services office and had no idea what I was doing. So it was probate court, paperwork absolutely made no sense. I had no idea what I was doing, but seeing a friendly face that looked like somebody that I could talk to, and you were just very kind, very warm, very inviting. And I remember that it really, it was a very dark time, after losing my husband and having to go through that process. It was comforting to see somebody in the office who was warm and inviting and knew what they were doing and were able to direct me. So I appreciate that. And I don't know if you know the impact that you have, but it's very real. It's very real. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. As a part of the brand, we have the Multifaceted Manifestations deck. I think that manifestation is very real. You can kind of speak things into existence, and that's a very big part of my philosophy. So that is why I created them. And I'm going to have you pull a card from the manifestation deck.
I always believe the universe conspires to bring us what we want. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, I would.
Absolutely. All right. So my life is full of purpose and motivation. I feel great joy as I am becoming the best version of myself. Oh, you're talking to me. This hits home. I turned 40 last year. As I mentioned earlier, the pandemic kind of slowed me down a bit. It helped me spend some time by myself in solitude, a lot of reflection, just self-awareness, self-accountability, realizing I'm somewhat responsible for running myself down because I worked so hard, and that was really all I did. And so as I was coming on 40, my physical health was giving up on me. I had to switch my diet. I had to get into the gym. And I told myself that 40 was going to be exclusively focused on what I wanted. I wasn't going to waver from what it was. And so I feel like since then, I've literally lived in my purpose. And my purpose has been taking break and taking things slow, not being slow, but taking things slow. Thinking about what it is that I want to accomplish, setting goals at the beginning of the year, holding myself accountable, right? I think self-accountability is really important. And just thinking of what is it that I want to check off my box? And that's all I'm going to focus on for right now. And, I think that as the time has gone on, I've really have been living in my purpose and owning my joy, owning my personal joy that I want to see in myself. And it really takes, and I think a lot of people don't sit in solitude, right? They feel like solitude is being alone. No, solitude is being able to be in your house and you're okay. right? It's being able to take a trip by yourself if that's what you want to do. It's, nails. It's all the self-care that we talk about. It's taking a nap if you need to take a nap. It's telling people no, like people will ask you to do stuff all day, all the time. It's a no for me.
Absolutely.
So
No.
I love this one.
I'm glad it resonated with you. So mine says, I will live in the moment and remain grateful for the experiences that unfold in my life. I think this is real because I think we all have a tendency, I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but I have a tendency to be focused on the next thing. So I definitely am goal driven. And I'm guilty of accomplishing something, but thinking about the what's next. So being very focused on the what's next. And I think that it's important to remain grateful for the experiences that are unfolding in the moment and to really celebrate the small wins. So that's something that I'm working on because I am very much guilty of thinking about the what's next. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate you coming and sitting and talking to me. And this was great.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.